to do today then is kind of of the what we know about the stress response as a means for keeping us alive when we're really in danger, and analyze us when we continue to have the stress response going, but we're not in any danger. Now, we said the other day that the stress response looks like this. We're at homeostasis. Okay, and time's moving this direction. And then what shows up in our, what did we decide this item right here is? A perceived threat. Doesn't matter if it's real or not. Makes no difference at all whether it's real. And what percentage of the time did we decide it really is real? Less than 1% of the time. So the other 99% of our lives, we're not really in danger. But that doesn't, right? So we have this perceived threat. And we initiate this fight or flight response. And we talked about how all of these different things take place immediately, instantaneously, flood the body with hormones, with blood sugar. We didn't mention that one. We actually have an increase, and this is important for those of you who have diabetics in your family. Is anyone diabetic in here? Do you have any diabetics in here? If you're always in the stress response, you're flooding, you're keeping your blood sugar levels high. If you're diabetic, is that good or bad? It's very. And after a while, your pancreas says, I'm too tired. I can't handle continually putting insulin into the bloodstream. There's so much of it in there. And then, what is that? What do we call that person whose pancreas? What? That person becomes diabetic. So we can say, again, and as we'll focus on today, stress is involved in a lot of problems. Now, how long did we say that the stress response is designed to last? 2 to 3 minutes, right. So at some point, 2 to 3 minutes, we're either safe or eaten up, and we go through this exhaustion phase, and this is all review, and we're safe, okay? We're not safe here, or at least we don't think we are, and then, okay, good, we're good, we're fine. We called her up, and she said no, but we can, she said yes, and we're no longer stressed. Now, I want to mention 2 things before we get into this. The problem we have is that people seem to stay up here in this level of what we'll call chronic stress. In other words, they do not continue to, or they continue to say in their mind, for whatever reason, the equivalent of, uh-oh. Okay? My boss is such a jerk. Oh, jeez, my boss is just a jerk, my boss. Or, I'm going to do horribly on this test. I'm going to do horribly on this test. Or, math. Or whatever words we say to ourselves over and over and over and over again, if it feels like, uh-oh, in any way, our body's going, oh, she must be in danger. I must need... Remember, that part's unconscious, okay? And so we stay up there. Now, before we get into the problem with that, I want to mention a couple of things. I think somebody in here, I believe, asked this question. Is there a certain amount of stress that is useful? Did we ask that in here? Somebody asked that, and it was a great question because we like to think, well, I don't want any stress. Does anyone in here play the piano? You've got a couple pianists. When you're playing the piano, you're just playing along, and you hit the middle C. Dung. Is that close? Dung. That's a little low. So you hit middle C, you hit the key, and you hear a sound. How does that sound happen? What happens to make that sound? Dung. It's magic. You just hit it and out of nowhere. What makes that sound happen? Right. You have a hammer that goes dong. That's a string that is tightened at a certain level of tension, right? You have people, piano tuners, who come in and they actually tighten the strings. If you play the guitar, same thing. You're always tightening your strings to a certain, key, E, and whatever the others are, right? What would happen if the middle C string was strung too tightly? It would sound badly. It would sound what? It would be sharp, right? It would be high. You go. That's not what you want. Same if it were strung not tightly enough. It'd be flat. It'd be too low. Same with your guitar strings. Well, we're kind of the same way, where we say a certain amount of stress is useful and helpful for us. In the book we have a diagram called the Yerkes-Dodson principle. And the idea behind this is as stress levels go up to a certain degree, so does our ability to accomplish. If you had no stress at all, if you had no demands, what would your day look like? You just sit there and watch soaps all day, or whatever. That would be stressful for me. But you get the idea. We need a little amount of stress. I mean, being here, it took some demands to get to here, but you're glad you did. We call, Scott?
I have a question. So does a player make like an athlete? Maybe that's how like a stress level?
Yeah, and we call that kind of stress, we have a word for it. There's actually a word. Does anyone know what the word is? Stress? Yeah, it has the prefix EU. What does the prefix EU mean? Eulogy, euphemism, what does EU stand for? Do you know? Somebody gives a eulogy. What are they doing? Yeah, and it's usually the word EU, the prefix EU means good. This is the stress, like we have in sports. Like we have when we're trying to attack the mountain. You have a Viking, you have a certain amount. You are doing something you really enjoy. Kayaking down if you love kayaking and you're going down and it's kind of tough, but you're enjoying it. There's no sense of threat there is the main difference. And as this increases to a certain point, we're good. I don't care a lick about this part as far as what we're dealing with in this class. What's the opposite of eustress? The opposite is distress, and as distress increases, performance comes down. So the more unnecessary stress we have, the worse off we are. So if we're really freaking out before a test, kiss the test goodbye. Or if we're really freaking out as we're trying to shoot a foul shot, I can even hit the iron. or you try and call somebody. Will you go out with me, please?